Good evening. Good to see a good group out tonight, and we're going to pick up where we left off a couple weeks ago in the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. And this is sort of the nitty-gritty that when people think of Revelation, this is one of the areas that they really want to know all about. And we're talking about the Antichrist, and we're talking about the false prophet, and particularly everybody loves to learn about the 666, right? We're going to do some review a little bit tonight just to bring everybody up to speed. And as we get into this, talk more about this idea of the mark of the beast and the 666, which we spent some time on last time. We're going to run back through some of the same stuff to keep it in context and keep it consistent. One of the first questions that come out when you start talking about why this is deciding it wants to spin, doesn't matter. Anyhow, I guess that's not on anyhow. Okay. There's a couple of questions that everybody wants to know. The first is, who's the Antichrist? Everybody wants to determine, and we're going to spend some time on that tonight. The second thing is, what does 666 mean? Is it on my credit card? Is it on the what do they call it, the barcodes? I mean, is it on somebody's forehead? What's all the deal about the 666? Those are two questions that if you do any type of study, prophecy study, and you read books or whatever, at some point, you got to get into that, okay? And as I've said before, I've learned over the years that I've studied it, and I've heard just about every twist and twang that you can imagine with people coming up with who's the Antichrist and why, and what the 666 means and stuff. I've just come to the realization that it doesn't really matter either way. I mean, if the Antichrist is alive today, he has not been revealed yet to the church. We don't know who he is, and it really doesn't matter who it is or why. First of all, I believe we might be raptured out of here to start with, okay, so it isn't going to matter to us anyhow. But if we're not raptured out of here immediately, we'll know who it is at the time because he will be revealed, and we'll know how we've got to conduct ourselves accordingly, okay? And the same with the 666. It doesn't really matter, and I just want to preface as we get into this tonight and run back through some of this stuff. Don't get overly concerned in your life about who the Antichrist might be. I spent a lot of time this week going back and doing some study on some of the ways that men have come up with who these antichrists are. And trust me, if you get out on the internet, you can spend the next 6 months, 24/7, trying to determine who the Antichrist is, and you'll come up with probably your own name if you're not careful. Okay, because it's just about that silly when you get out there and start looking at all of it. It's very detailed. It goes back historical records, clear back to the 1st century. I'm going to throw a few things at you tonight just to give you an idea, but don't get bogged down in that. It's much more important, I believe, if the church sticks to the Great Commission, which is to go into the world and preach the gospel to every living creature, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit before it's eternally too late. So if you got extra time to worry about who the Antichrist is, go witness to a friend, I guess is my point. Don't get bogged down in this stuff. It's fun to know, have an idea of what it's about. We know there's an Antichrist coming. We know there's a false prophet coming. And we're going to read about it here in chapter 13 again this week. But don't get bogged down. It isn't that important who the Antichrist is. And it really isn't important on what the 666 is. The only thing that's important is those people that are left behind after the rapture are going to have to be faced with these decisions. Now, there may be some decisions that we have to make ahead of time, like taking the chip or not, okay? And we're going to talk about some of that a little more in depth tonight. But let's get started here. Make sure I go the right direction here, okay? We started talking about the red dragon. Let's go back into chapter 13. I want to read the whole chapter again, and we're going to bring together these two beasts again as we did last week, or last time we were together. John writes in chapter 13, verse 1, I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as though it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon who gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? There was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb slain from the foundations of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go into captivity, and he that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is patience and faith of the saints. And I believe that these first 10 verses here are describing the Antichrist himself, Satan's man that's going to sit on the throne and force the world to worship him as God. And we're going to go back to this in a minute. Verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them who dwell on it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great powers, or great wonders, and makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast that had wound by the sword, and he did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and enslaved, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell except he that has the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And I believe the verses 11 through 17 is describing what we call the false prophet. Okay? And so we have 2 individuals that are going to be key players, I believe, in this last, particularly, I kind of think that the false prophet is going to come on the scene early on in the tribulation period. If you go back to Daniel chapter 9, where you see the 7-year peace pact is made with Israel over the temple worship, I believe that that's going to be the false prophet that brings that about. Carol and I were talking a few minutes ago before we started. We've just had the week of the Pope of Rome here in America. He's been in South America. He's all over the world now. He's trying to bring the world religions together. He's spent time with a lot of the imams in Islam. He wouldn't take a stand from the Catholic Church. He wouldn't take a stand on the LGBT crowd now that we've got here in America on those issues. He just is doing everything he can to try to be palatable to everybody. He's talking about brotherly love. He talked about us all being children of God and all this kind of stuff. It's not biblical, number one. And so I can very well see the Pope, and we're going to look at some other stuff tonight that's going to tell you where it's not just me. Most Bible scholars over the years, teachers that I've studied, go back to the 1st century, even before the Roman Catholic Church came into existence. We're already talking about the type of false prophet and antichrist that was coming. Now, up until the last 15 years or so, we pretty much thought the Pope of Rome was going to be the antichrist. I personally have moved away from that. I tend to think that the Pope of Rome is going to be the false prophet, and then the 12th Imam, which is the messianic the Messiah of Islam that's supposed to be coming. I believe he's going to be the Antichrist. But I think there's going to be a union of Roman Catholicism and Islam to try to bring the world together under the one world system. Okay, that's really the only way I can see the power of the Roman Church and the power of Islam today overwhelming all other religions, bringing the world religions together under one umbrella. Is going to be an alliance between the Pope of Rome and the 12th Imam of Islam. And so if that comes together, then you'll have enough power base in religion to bring all religions together into one. Okay? Otherwise, the religions are going to continue the bloodbath. So I think eventually you're going to see some type of alliance between the so-called false Christian, the apostate Christian church, which is going to be the Roman Catholic Church. You're going to see an alliance between them and Islam to stop the bloodbath that's gone on since the Byzantine Empire. Okay? So that's why I think that these two guys are going to come into play here and be so critical. Let's first step back and talk about the Antichrist here in verses 1 through 7. He comes up out of the sea. He's having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. And we talked last time about authority, and I've heard over the years the hills in Rome, the different nations of the European common market. We're going to be part of this thing, and all this type of stuff. I've forgot all of that stuff because we used to really be bent on the euro was coming together with the European common market, as they had about 8 nations in it. We were just waiting for that 10th nation to join, and then Jesus was coming. Well, then it got to 14 nations, and we sort of had to say, wait a minute, that didn't work. What now? So I've learned in a lot of this prophecy stuff, some of the stuff we used to teach literally, I don't teach literally anymore. All I know is at some point there's going to be 10 nations gathered together under this Antichrist that's going to bring this all about. Of course, we got the G7, we got the G8, we got the G20, and they're all in process of trying to bring the world together under the UN and under some kind of one blanket that covers the economy and all this stuff. So eventually it's going to come down to, I believe, 10 nations are going to support and bring about the power behind this Antichrist. Okay? Notice here his name is blasphemy. I mean, that kind of tells you where he's at. Satan, there's no truth in him. So whatever he says is going to be Antichrist. He's not going to support Christianity as we know it. I don't know whether you had on your blasphemy radar. I know Carol did, but when the Pope was here and some of the stuff that I heard, I'm going, where in the world in the Bible is he getting that stuff? Okay, but the more he spoke, everybody was mesmerized. What a wonderful speaker he is. To me, he was quite boring. I mean, really, I just couldn't listen to him too long because I just thought he put me to sleep. He monotones it, and of course, then you got the translators monotoning it just like he did, and I thought, what in the world? But the reality is just the fact that he's the quote pontiff. He got the accolades that he's a wonderful speaker and all this wonderful stuff he was saying. Well, hey, I can tell you you're beautiful, but if you're not, it's not true. And it's kind of the same thing when you start talking about the Bible. We can say all kinds of wonderful things to people, but if it's not biblical, I'm lying to you through my teeth. And that's kind of what I was listening to as I'm listening to most of the stuff he was saying. I mean, really. If it's not in the scriptures, let's not pontificate about it to a bunch of people to make them feel good. But that's what he was doing the whole time he was here, in my opinion. And so, he's the perfect false prophet, if you will. And if it's not him, it may be the next guy coming along. But I think that position, more than anything, he solidified to me that position is going to be the false prophet that brings about the false peace to the world, that brings about the tribulation period. I mean, to me, it just really solidified this is the guy, or he's at least got the position and the authority with the Catholic Church. Okay?
Someone with that kind of persona.
Yeah. Oh.
Millions of people came from nowhere.
Yeah.
These are probably people who just
Yeah. And I saw a picture when he was down in I saw a picture when he was down in Brazil recently. There were over 2 million people out to see him in Brazil. Over 2 million. Okay, so this isn't just happening in America. Everywhere this guy goes, he's getting this kind of reception where people are just, they're looking for anything and someone to tell them what they want to hear. And he's playing that game, Scott.
He's actually able to deceive people with his love attitude.
Correct.
I mean, I've heard people in the church say, "Oh my gosh, that guy exudes love."
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, hello, he's kissing the ground, he's kissing babies, he's kissing Bibles. I mean, yeah, I'm going to say this, I wouldn't want him slobbering on my Bible. So, but that's neither here nor there. But, huh? What's that? Yeah, he didn't take any stands, he didn't take any biblical stands against, anything. I mean, he was appeasing everything, and he didn't take any biblical stands against anything. And to be honest with you, for someone to bring the world together, that's the approach Satan's got to use. He's got to agree. It's kind of like I heard today, Hillary Clinton is agreeing with everybody just to get their votes. And she might as well be the Pope. I'll say that too on TV. She might as well be the Pope. Okay? I think they both thought were about the same camp. But, that's how I see this playing out. But this first guy here, the Antichrist, he probably is going to be a political ruler in the first 3.5 years, because he's going to be popular when he creates this death and resurrection deal that we read about here, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. Okay, but people are going to know about him. But I don't believe the real power structure is going to come into play when the Bible talks about in 2 Thessalonians about the son of perdition being revealed. I believe that's when he dies, quote, and resurrects from the dead, and all of a sudden decides he's going to be God in the temple. That's when he truly, if we call him, okay, that's when he becomes the Antichrist, and everybody starts worshiping him. That's halfway through. So I think we're going to have the false prophet's going to come on the scene. This political ruler is going to come on the scene, but the false prophet's going to be the lead for the first 3.5 years. Then he's going to endorse the Antichrist to the temple. You follow me? And that's kind of how I see this thing playing out. Now, in this particular instance, the Antichrist is revealed first, then the false prophet. But I've told you already, the revelation doesn't flow like a nice chronological order. So I believe that there's no semblance to the fact that the beast, the Antichrist, is revealed in the first few verses, and then we get to the false prophet. I believe the false prophet is going to be the major player out front. I believe the Roman Catholic Church is going to lead that first 3.5 years in bringing the world together under the Pope. Then at that point, the Antichrist, when this 12th Imam is revealed, he's going to set himself up in the Jewish temple to be ruled as God. So that's kind of what I see going on here, okay? His name is Blasphemy. You can play around with the beast looking like a leopard and his feet like a bear and all this kind of stuff. The real key to me here is the dragon gives him the power. And we've looked at the scripture already. The dragon is none other than Satan himself. Okay? So this guy's going to he's going to be satanically possessed. Owned by Satan.
But he will come to power politically and militarily.
Well, yeah, not really, because again, if you go back to to Satan when he comes to power, the first horse of the apocalypse, he comes to power he's going to have control of the military. But until he starts lopping people's heads off, he doesn't need it, because it's all going to be kumbaya. It's going to be peace and safety, and let's all get along as brotherly love. And that's how the Pope's going to present it. Okay? And the world wants it. The world wants it. There's so much violence going on and terrorism worldwide. If he can have the answer, to solve world terrorism, and he can solve all the economic problems. We got China getting ready to collapse. We got Brazil already collapsed, and the euro's in trouble. The American dollar's in trouble. I mean, if he can have all those answers, if he can have all the answers about nuclear proliferation, and now all of a sudden the peace treaty between Iran and us is irrelevant because Iran's going to roll over on it because we're going to encourage their imam to come on the scene. I mean, all of this stuff, if you think about it, is like Arlene says, the world is set up for this scenario to take place perfectly in a heartbeat. And all it's going to take is two charismatic guys with all the answers, satanically charged, and the world's going to fall into play like, huh? Exactly, just a little. And trust me, when it goes worldwide, it's on television every night for a month, and everybody in the world seeing and hearing the same message. And then if they need to be, I mentioned earlier before we started, we talked a little bit last time together about virtual reality. Once they put it on television and it becomes virtual, and they can make it say and be anything they want it to be because it's being played out of who knows production studios. It's like Scott said earlier when we were talking, everybody today, we all know what aliens look like, right? With the two eyes and the smooth heads look like a teardrop. We all know what they look like, right? Yeah, thanks to Hollywood. We all got that picture in our mind. And if there's an alien out there, I'm sure that's what they got to look like.
Talk about the same day at work.
Oh, they think you're nuts. Oh, no question. Trust me. Even the unsaved people, the unchurched people thought he was wonderful. That's what amazed me. The atheists thought he was wonderful. Yeah. The devout atheist thought he was wonderful because he's talking about love and all the feel-good stuff. See? And so, I mean, the world is right here for Satan's picking. It's right here. I've been doing this for 40 plus years, and more than any time in my lifetime, the world is ready for this whole scene to come to play. Okay? It's right here. So it's coming. So he's going to come to power. The dragon, Satan, is going to give him, notice, not just authority, but great authority. All right? Now, where did we learned when we talked about the white horse in Revelation chapter 6, where does Satan get his authority? His authority is given to him. By who? By God. Okay? But everything that God's given him to take over this world, he's going to give it to this guy. He's going to have Satan's 100% attention. And everything Satan can pull out, all the strings he can pull out, Satan's going to have it. You notice that the false prophet's going to rain fire from heaven. Bible talks about in 2 Thessalonians about the Antichrist and the false prophet coming to power with great miracles, signs and wonders, great signs and wonders. So Satan's going to be the power behind these people. And you know, we go to Job, and you know, he burned Job's family out, killed them all, slapped Job with leprosy and boils and all kinds of stuff. So this is the kind of power that God gave Satan at that period. We've already seen where he's going to get the keys to heaven or the keys to hell and let the demons out and the kind of stuff they're going to do. So this is going to be really ugly. And this beast is going to have great power here, great authority. Then we went through last time about the wound to death, and it's going to be healed, and we read about that later on in the chapter under in verse 14. Says that he deceived him, dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell upon the earth that they should make an image of the beast that had the wound by a sword and did live. So at some point, this political leader is going to be stabbed with a sword, and everybody's going to see it. He might be giving a speech, and somebody walks up and gets past the security guards, or it might be a security guard, sticks him in the gut with a sword, and everybody's going to watch it, and he's going to be dead for a day or two, and then he's going to resurrect. And at that point, if they weren't believers before, they'll be believers then. Okay? And that's going to seal it, in my opinion, is the resurrection from the dead. He's falsifying Christ was killed on the cross, resurrected from the dead, and that solidified it in the apostles' beliefs that he was Messiah. So this guy's going to do the same kind of shenanigans here. And not that Christ's stuff was shenanigans. Christ was real. This one's going to be false, okay?
Well, you said with TV the way it is now, they really don't have to stand it.
Yeah.
They can make it appear.
Oh, hey, if he's an image, whatever. Yeah. No, that's it. And if it's virtual, everybody will believe it anyhow. So,
How better to convince everybody than to stage your own demise and live through it?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then it says, notice it says in this verse 3 here, after the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. How did he do that? How did he resurrect from the dead? You know, we've heard for years about Jesus resurrecting from the dead, but we never believed that. We never believed somebody could really resurrect from the dead, but look at that. There it is right on TV. That makes it real, right?
Yeah, now we're really.
Now we're seeing it, you know, on line prime time. You know, then he says, verse 4, they that worship the dragon who gave the power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to wage war with him? And there brings up Carol's point. He's going to have, by this time, he's going to have political control over all the military. You know, all the nukes are going to be under his control. All the military, Russia, ours, who knows, Israel, he's going to have it all in his control. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that Israel's military is going to be under his control because of the peace pact. You think for 1 minute that Antichrist is going to sign a peace pact with Israel, knowing that Israel, knowing that all the world's turned against them and wants to destroy them off the planet? And the one condition, we'll let you do your temple worship, continue to be Israel, but here, sign this, you got to leave your military at home. If you don't, we're going to wipe you off the planet. That's going to be part of the peace pact with Israel. Trust me. Because Israel's probably right up there, maybe above us in some military technology. They taught us most of the stuff that we know. You know that the majority of the scientists at Alamogordo, New Mexico, were all Jews, right? You know that? They were German Jews that had defected from Germany and come over here and taught us how to build nuclear bombs. Oppenheimer and Einstein and all them guys, they're all German Jews. So that whole technology is because of the brilliant minds of the Jews. So trust me, Israel is probably way ahead of us in nuclear technology. We just don't know it. We think we're the number one. Trust me.
We don't have missiles coming at us every day.
That's correct. That's correct. And I also don't believe we have the minds that they do. I know that's a whole other topic we could talk about.
They had to develop that.
Yeah, they still have no choice but to continue to stay ahead of everybody. Okay?
The mother of invention.
Exactly. There was, in verse 5, there was given him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. We talked about that last time. That I believe this beast, the Antichrist, his real reign is 3.5 years at the end of the Great Tribulation period. When you go to Matthew 24, and it talks about Jacob's trouble, that's the last 3.5 years of the tribulation period, when there's going to be pure hell on earth. It says that there never was a time like this, nor ever will be. And I believe it's this 3.5 year period, this 42 months that we're talking about, with this satanic Antichrist sitting on the throne of God to be worshipped as God and ruling and reigning as God. And we're going to see in a minute, at that point, Christ is pouring out the vile judgments on the earth. So it's going to be pure hell on earth. Okay? But this beast is going to be the centerpiece of that, called the Antichrist. Okay? Verse 6, he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Now, you know, all we can do is go back to Isaiah 14 and look at Satan's rebellion. Here he was in heaven, God's number one angel, and that wasn't good enough for him. And now he's sitting down here on earth, empowering a man, cursing God, blaspheming everything that is God, blaspheming the heavenly realm, blaspheming everything he can think of to mankind, and trying to force mankind to worship him. That's the picture here. And the sad thing is, mankind's going to do it to a large degree. He's going to deceive the world, with the exception of the remnant. Okay? So that's the picture that we've got in the middle of this tribulation period, and really for 3.5 years here. All right. Notice that he has the power to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Now we spent time back in Revelation chapter 7 talking about the 144,000 witnesses, and they were sealed, and they had ability to rain fire and do things as well. Then we had the 2 witnesses come on the scene. Of course, at this point, he's killed the 2 witnesses, and they've resurrected from the dead and gone back to glory. But we can only assume that most of the 144,000, because they were sealed as well, they're witnessing. People are getting saved, but now the heat's turned up on anybody that gets saved. You talk about putting your life on the line. This is it. Okay? And so it's going to, for those that get saved, he's going to make war against the saints to overcome them, and power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. There's going to be no place to hide. We've got the whole idea today, particularly going on in America, about prepping and being ready for the tribulation period, and building bunkers and storing up ammo and buy bigger tanks and whatever else you got to do to try to protect yourself. Folks, listen to me. Don't be duped. Okay? I mean, to be honest with you, I've prepared about like I do for a hurricane. If I can last 2 weeks when all hell breaks loose, fine, take me on to glory after 2 weeks. When they show up on your doorstep with an M1 tank or a cruise missile or whatever, you ain't got big enough guns to stop it from happening. Okay? And trust me, you're going to leave a paper trail somewhere. They're going to know where your bunker is and how to get to it.
Land and food, we're going to be like, that's the first place we're taking over.
Exactly. They're going to come looking for you. I mean, you know, and I learned years ago. I don't want to get into a lot of my personal life, but I was involved in an investigation one time by the federal government on a drug deal. Not that I was involved in the drugs. I happened to buy a piece of property from a drug dealer, and the next thing you know, I got the state's attorney's office calling me, wanting to depose me, and it taught me. At that point, the kind of paper trail, today it would be the technology trail that we leave behind us. And it blew me away. I mean, my attorney told me the first time I called my attorney, he says, don't you dare talk to them without me there. I said, Ken, why? I don't have anything to hide. He says, don't you dare talk to them without me there. Well, I listened to my attorney, and I'm glad I did. Oh, I was blown away at the paper trail that had been created on that file. He knew more about me than I knew about me. And he certainly knew more about the transaction than I knew about. And I was blown away. And he had it in a file about this thick. And all I'd done was buy a piece of real estate. So I learned you can't hide today. You can't hide your paper trail. I mean, some of us have GPS in our underwear and don't know it. Cell phones telling them everything they want to know. If you're on the internet at all, they've got a history of you. Have you ever wondered why in the world you can be out there on the internet, you're looking on eBay or whatever, trying to buy something, the next thing you know, for the next 6 months, you keep getting all these ads to buy some more of them? You ever wondered how? I mean, come on. I spent 10 minutes buying some little part of a boat on the internet. Now I can't get away from West Marine. I mean, you know, my email is just junked up with stuff all the time.
Don't they have it now also, even walking in the store, it picks up your credit card information, not even taking your card out. It's a scanner that picks it up and knows that
The crooks can the crooks can do that. Walk by you and they just scanned your wallet. Trust me, we are leaving a paper trail, and we are leaving today a technology trail every time we move. And sometimes when we're sitting in our house, because they might be out on the street, your TV's monitoring everything you're watching on TV.
We have swipe cards at work. Every time you swipe, they go back and tell who it was.
Absolutely. So to think for 1 minute that we're going to go build a bunker somewhere and hide, and they're not going to come find us, is a joke. These are lives of Satan. Okay. Plus the fact, and I actually made one of our, he no longer comes here. I made him mad at a men's meeting one time. You know, he and his wife were from another state, and they decided they wanted to go buy a cabin in the woods, and it was to go hide. And I just made the comment in a men's meeting that, you know, there's nowhere in the Bible where to go hide. We're to be in the middle of the people to witness. I wanted to hide 40 years ago in North Carolina, and God wouldn't let me do it. And even when I got ordained 25 years ago, I had the church picked out in North Carolina, and we wouldn't let me do that either. I'm still here.
Remember the belly of the whale.
Oh, is that what this is? No. Nah, I love you guys. But yeah, that's true. And that we're to be in the middle of the fields. I mean, God's got us in South Florida because South Florida's so needy. This is a mission field down here, folks. This isn't Bible Belt. Even though we're way south, this is not Bible Belt.
I was shocked to find out statistically the number of churches in this county compared to what would be considered average.
Oh yeah.
It's really.
Oh, it's dead. I mean, and to be honest with you, if you go up where I've got a daughter, I got one in Atlanta, which is Bible Belt, and I got another one in Birmingham, Alabama, which is really Bible Belt. A small church is 1,000. That doesn't mean a lot because there's nothing going on the rest of the week. They come out for their 1 hour of Jesus a week, but they're huge churches. Huge. And I mean, there's lots of them with 8,000, 10,000 all over town, all over Birmingham. Great big, huge places.
I'm surprised I was coming in. I thought Christ Fellowship had something on Sunday night.
No, it's shut down. No, they had 3 services this morning. That's it. They've had their 100,000 today in their 6 or 7 campuses. You know, you know, I talked with a friend this week and used to go to Christ Fellowship, and he's got disillusioned because he says every time I go in there, all they want's money. So all I'm hearing now is about money. You know, and they're buying, 100 and 200 acre campus in Stewart or Port St. Lucie now. I mean, they're just, I don't know what Tom's trying to do, what kind of empire he's trying to build, but to me, what are we doing here, folks? But that's what's going on in the Church of Jesus Christ today, is how many people can we get to pep rallies? I mean, you know, it's to the point. I went to over about a 7 or 8 year period. I went to 8 or 9 Promise Keepers events. Okay, and I've sat in Promise Keepers events probably to the tune of about 2 million people, 2 million guys, 1,600,000 in Washington, but then between the rest of them, another couple 100,000 in football stadiums and stuff like this, and they're fun. They are great. And for once a year, it's a high. But try to create it every week and call it church. As much as I love the Promise Keepers events, and I saw a lot of men saved, and a lot of men commit their lives, it's not church.
It's a targeted message.
It'll never be church. Church is connectedness. Church is a body fitly framed together, as we like to say here. Carol, right? And I mean, that's what's missing today in so many churches, is there is no connectedness. We're building these big pep rallies every week.
Those guys
But-
weren't getting paid for those Promise Keepers, they probably wouldn't have.
It kind of died out because of men kind of lost the passion for the big pep rallies. You can only sustain that so long. Okay, back to the scriptures. He's got power over every kindred, every tongue, every nation. Verse 7. All that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain for the foundation of the world. You know what that tells me? The whole world's going to buy into this stuff except true believers. There's not going to be the divisions we've got today, where we got in America, we got the progressives and we got the conservatives, and they're fighting over who we're going to elect for president. It's not going to be that stuff. This is going to have such power and such attractiveness, if you will, everybody's going to fall in line. Everybody's going to worship him. He's going to bring, as much as he can, possibly within humanity, he's going to bring world peace. And then all hell's going to break loose. The world peace is going to last for 3.5 years. But he's going to force everybody to worship him.
It's kind of hard to picture until you figure if it is a pre-trib rapture, there will be very little resistance.
That's correct.
And
Well,
144,000 with what, 4 billion people
Yeah.
left on the planet?
Yeah.
By the time all the plagues and stuff, but still,
it's peanuts.
like you're saying, it's
Yeah.
ready.
The-
It's
the-
time picking.
The true church at this point, which is going to be predominantly Jews, the true church is going to be a real small remnant. Yeah, real small remnant. And the rest of the world is going to be all about wiping Israel off the planet when it comes down to it. They're all going to be, Israel's going to be the thorn in the side of everything Satan's trying to do. And he's going to blame everything that goes wrong on Israel, those Zionists. If you want to spend some time and get into this a little bit, just put in the term Zionist in a Google search and see what you get. It'll blow you away. I mean, Zionists, okay? That's the term that Nazis were against. Hitler riled up the Nazis against the Zionists. The Zionist movement is the idea that the Jews are going to take over the world. Okay? And I mean, you'd be surprised if you do just a wild Google search what you get if you do that kind of stuff. Okay? Verse 9 is to us, if any man has an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is patience and the faith of the saints. Then we get back to the false prophet, the lamb over here, okay? And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. And you got to ask yourself right out front, why does he appear as a lamb? He's falsifying our Lamb of God that's slain for the sins of the world. What better analogy than to line yourself with Christ and be a liar if you want to deceive the saints or the false saints? Okay, so this is why I really believe this fits the Pope, the position of the Pope of the papacy. I mean, he's supposedly the representative of the Christian church, right? He's the vicar. I mean, he's right there with Jesus. He's Jesus' representative today, supposedly, theologically.
The Catholic Church, not the
He's
Christian.
supposed to
That's-
all the loose ends that God left.
If God made a mistake, he's to correct it. All those things that God's not smart enough to change on his theology, the Pope can change it. See, that's the vicar. Okay, that's who the Pope is to the world today. And so he's in the perfect position to be this lamb. Look at verse, he spoke like a dragon. Now, I had to think about that with the Pope just here. Did you hear any screaming
Screaming.
by the Pope? Did you hear any expletives at all?
I don't understand what he said. Screaming.
It was tedious at best to try to understand.
I mean, even when he spoke in English, it was about this loud. And it was the Bible says this, and I see that, and this is going on in the world, and this is about it. And, it was all monotone. It was nice and quiet.
Everybody was sleeping.
Put you to sleep if you want. I mean, when you think about have you ever watched any of the old preaching of Adolf Hitler? And you compare that with the Pope? When we think he spoke like a dragon, we get this vision of this big red dragon in the fiery coming out of the mouth and all that. This is a dragon of peace. The word dragon, I thought of a chameleon. You can take an alligator, lay him upside down and pet his belly, and he'll just lay there. Dragons don't mean necessarily like we see on cartoons, the fire-breathing dragons. I believe Satan is going to bring this. This guy is going to come. He's a lamb, remember? I think he's going to be soft-spoken. I think he's going to have just all these sweet little words. He's going to tell the world exactly what they want to hear. But in reality, he's a dragon. I don't think he's going to be giving Adolf Hitler speeches. I believe it's going to be the exact opposite.
Well, like Carol says, she was for
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, that's what I see here. This guy is going to be the ultimate deception. He's going to be the ultimate deception. Now, verse 12 is interesting. He exercised all the power of the first beast before him, causing the earth and them to dwell on it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound is healed. Notice both of them have all this power. But he's going to say, there's your guy. I'm the peacemaker. Worship God because of me. He's got all the answers. See, that's what's going on here. He's going to be pointing everybody to the Antichrist, all right? Of course, the Antichrist is dead. He's resurrected. Verse 13, we see great wonders, making fire come down from heaven in the sight of men, deceiving them that dwell on the earth by the means of the miracles in verse 14, which he had power to do in the sight of men. So both of these guys are going to be able to perform miracles and have this kind of power. They're going to have the world eaten out of their hand. All right. Let's get down to verse 16 where we went to last week. I want to skip some of this stuff here. You don't want to go any further, Scott. I got a problem, Scott. Huh? Did it? Yeah, but I've done screwed it up now. It's getting ready to restart my whole device. let me see if I can get out of here. All right, wait a minute.
Just tell me where to go.
All right, I might. There we go.
No, I just did that.
Oh, you did that. No, I'm going back to that. You or me? You or me?
That was you.
That was me. Now I can't. Not me? Okay, let's try it one more time. It don't want to work here very well. All right, we'll fake it here. Okay. All right, keep going. We've been over this. Go on. I want to get to there we go. This chart, you've seen it. The only thing I added to this chart, if you got it before, you can't read that red up here at all. Holy mackerel. I can't even read it this close. Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to point out here. This is halfway through the tribulation period. Halfway through this 7-year period is when Satan takes over. Complete control and becomes authoritarian, totalitarian. No longer option. Okay? No longer option. Antichrist is in the temple in Jerusalem. He's being endorsed by the false prophet. He set himself up as God to be worshipped as God. And all of a sudden this mark of the beast takes place. I believe, as I said last time we were together, I believe this is going to be optional to start with. I was doing some reading this week on the what is it, RDIF chip? Is that right? RDIF chip? RFID chip? I knew it was something like that. Okay. I'm doing some reading on that this week. There was several school districts in Wyoming that, without parents' permission, implanted them in kids in school. There was a guy interviewed that basically took one himself. He was involved in this. It sounds like it's a poor area out there, to be honest with you. It's probably done through their medical taking care of the kids. But he was a coal miner, and he had taken the chip. And he was talking about how he uses it buying all of his groceries and all this kind of stuff. And he thinks the federal government ought to pass a law that everybody takes it because he thinks it'd be great. So listen, folks, when this comes into play, it's going to be the thing to do. We're going to be the only ones objecting.
Did you see the new credit cards?
I just had one of my credit cards held up for 2 weeks. I couldn't buy anything on it because I hadn't got the new one with the chip, and they had already put it out there. Everybody knew I had the one with the chip, and they had the new date and all this kind of stuff. And my credit card was worthless for 2 weeks till I got the chip and could authenticate it by calling in. So yeah, I know all about the chips. But trust me, that ain't gonna do it either. Yeah, that ain't gonna do it either. It's going to be temporary. It's just a matter until they find out how to hack those. And the chip is eventually coming. And it's going to be, to start with, it's going to be the way to go. We're going to be sold the whole idea. Everybody's going to talk about how great it is. And your kids are going to be telling you if you don't take it, you're a nutcase because you're an old man and you're too old-fashioned. And we're going to hear that from our kids. I'm going to hear it from my daughters. I can tell you that already if they take the chip. Hope they don't, but if they do.
And young parents are going to be told, you'll be able to know exactly what your children are.
Oh, absolutely.
I was with, last night, I saw a friend at a concert, and her daughter, and so she has something that she can go on her phone.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, this is great. My daughter, the sugar just crashed. And I'm like, you can see that?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on-
She goes,
Yeah.
I can see it. So it's going to be made to where everybody's so comfortable.
It's
And
gonna be
like,
beneficial.
if we were good parents, we were going to do this.
Exactly.
I need to know where my kid is.
And it's going to get to the point when your granddaughter's pregnant or your daughter's pregnant, she better not go to the hospital to have the baby.
You won't even know.
Because it's going to be implanted. It's going to be implanted at birth. Okay, it's going to get to that point. And at what point is the church going to decide that we got to come up with midwives to help our young ladies have babies, and we can't go get a birth certificate and register them because that's probably going to be a requirement to get a birth certificate is going to be the chip.
Maybe somebody can invent something.
I mean, folks, when you think about the ramifications, it's all coming. And at some point, we got to say, time out. As a church, we're not going to go there, which is going to put us at risk. So if Jesus tarries, church going to have some serious decisions to make with this stuff.
I was just thinking, I'll take it out, but the thing is, you won't be able to go anywhere. They'll say,
No buy or sell. Trust me. This guy was talking about he can go into Walmart and buy and walk out with nothing, just done deal. And that's where it's going. It's got your medical records, it's got your criminal records, it's got your financial records. Everything's on that little chip, and it's either underneath your skin here, or you look down at the scanner, they scan your forehead, and you walk out. Okay? Yeah, scan.
I hit my head.
But they got the guns. They'll do it with the gun. Shoot you in the head.
The cashier probably's got to grab you by the top of the head.
Yeah, scan you.
You over the glass.
Yeah, every time something goes through, they got to scan you again. Oh, well, only in this crowd. Only in this crowd. So at this point, it's going to be mandatory. It's not going to be an option. Okay, you got to take the mark.
What did the parents do when they found out? Did they not know about this?
Oh, it was uproar, but it's such a small area, small town that everybody ignored it.
Actually, I'm reading it now, Christine, and it says that they started first with the people on Medicare, on Medicaid,
Because the
because
poor people aren't going to
except,
have
and
their
they
voice.
can't live without government assistance.
Yeah.
And so, I
You
mean,
gotta know
there's
where
a
they're
single mom saying right here that she did it because she needs government assistance.
Yeah.
She got it, her kids got it.
Yeah.
And it was just a thing to do.
Yeah.
There was some opposition from the church, it says here, but these fringe churches believe Obama to be the Antichrist, and so they.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Kind of like the
It's
Tuskegee
to Obamacare.
experiment. Once there is no limit to the government.
No.
It's just how evil the people in power
It's
are.
Hannah, Wyoming.
And I mean, we can't stop Planned Parenthood from selling baby parts. I mean, let's face it, the power of the government is almost omnipotent now.
They said they're gonna stop their funding.
Yeah, wait and see if Congress does it or not. Congress has been talking about that for years,
There'll
but
be a philanthropist that'll donate money and it'll come through the back.
it will. It'll come to the back door.
That short-term funding that they're doing to keep the government going has Planned Parenthood in it.
Totally
Sure, of
funded.
course.
So you have to pay, if you want to keep the government going, Planned Parenthood's going to get
Correct.
the money.
I mean, and like they said, like Linda just said, even if the government stops paying it, the philanthropists will pick it up. The only way we're going to stop it is make it illegal and everybody goes to jail or is strung up by their
Well, it's
throats.
illegal to sell body
Yeah.
parts already.
No, I know it is. But
But when
But
you have
then
a,
they
It's just a
say-
matter of where you get them from.
They
when you have
they do the argument that it's not a person.
Yeah, of course.
But this is what I've always questioned. If they can say this is not a body, this is not a human, then why, if I get into an accident and there's a pregnant mother.
You're meddling
by the
now.
Stop sign, then it's like,
You're meddling now.
You know what I mean? It's like, I want to know why you consider.
It's called hypocrisy.
Right, there you go, there you go.
Double standards. It's called double.
But you can have an abortion where you can sell body parts and that's not a person,
Right.
but if you.
It's called double standards. So let's get back here. Verse 16, we talked about this last time. Verse 16, small, great, rich, poor, free, and slave receives the mark on the right hand of the forehead. That's everybody. Okay? No exclusions. Everybody's included. Got to have it. It's mandatory. Okay?
don't have arms, you're getting in the forehead.
That's right. Just take your pick. That's your choice.
You
Okay.
said this would be mid-trib?
Yeah, I believe it's right at the beginning of the tribulation period is when this becomes, when that guy sets himself up in the temple to be worshipped as God, this can be part of the deal. Okay. Could be,
There's a
yeah,
chance, it's like you're saying, willingly, you may get a large portion of the population just because it makes sense.
that's correct.
They'll cut out Medicare fraud, you cut all these great things it's
Identity
gonna do.
theft.
But all of you people that have been holding out and trying to work with cash and all this stuff, the party's over.
Especially when
Take the mark.
government says That's the law.
Yeah.
You gotta do it, or else it's gonna be.
All of a sudden-
uh,
All of a sudden, Publix isn't going to take your credit cards. Publix is not going to take your cash. If you don't have the mark, you're done.
You can't have a job, you can't earn
You're done.
money, you can't buy anything.
You're done.
You're all gotta go off the grid.
That's right.
mhm.
You're done. And you know, that's I don't want to get into that. My wife and I have been watching. There's a National Geographic thing off the grid, and they got waterfalls and there's swimming pools and all kinds. I'm thinking off the grid. Got to have chlorine. Got electric to run the pump. Hello, what are we doing here? There's really no such thing off the grid except for going to glory.
Yeah,
Then you're off the grid.
yeah.
Okay. Prior to that, you're going to be on somebody's grid. Got news for you.
The manifesto or something where he lived out in the cabin, the one that killed a bunch of people with mail bombs.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Unabomber?
Yeah. Unabomber. Yeah.
Kind of was off, that would be my,
He wasn't off the grid. He was coming down and buying stuff to survive. He wasn't off the grid. He was relying on the grid the whole time. He just never got caught until later on in these deal. Yeah, you know, off the grid, huh?
Under the radar.
Yeah, under the radar maybe. And maybe he didn't have electric and running water, but that doesn't mean you're off the grid. Off the grid would mean you're self-sustained. That's truly off the grid. And there's no such thing in this life that I know about. We all have to depend on somebody for something. Unless we're sleeping even in a sleeping bag, you had to get a sleeping bag somewhere. Anyhow, it's going to be mandatory. Okay? That verse 17, that no man might buy or sell except that he has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay? Then it gets into this number of his name stuff. Scott, this don't want to work again, so you may have to. It went the wrong direction.
I got it sideways, it's tiny.
Huh? Is it right to left? Left to right.
just do it one step.
Go on more. Yeah, go on. There we go. All right. This is the last 3.5 years in a nutshell. Okay? Starts with the rapture of the two witnesses over on your my left-hand side. And the Antichrist fakes his death, resurrection, and then sets himself up in the temple of God to be worshipped as God. And that starts that last 3.5 year, that 42-month period. Okay? We're going to see as we proceed into the next few chapters the 7 bowl judgments. We've already seen the 7 seals opened. We've seen the 7 trumpet judgments. And now we're going to see the 7 vial judgments. And again, the vial judgments add to the trumpet judgments, which added to the seal judgments, okay? So it just continues to get worse and worse and worse as this thing progresses from God's standpoint. And remember, the bowl judgments are Christ foreclosing on the title deed to the earth. So we're talking about the kinsman redeemer here. These vial judgments, I don't want to get ahead too much, but these vial judgments are what we call the exculpatory clause in a mortgage. That's when they come after your keys. Okay? This is the final deal to come get your keys. There's exculpatory clause in a borrowing money. I've often wondered, this is a problem we've got in America today, and I don't know these numbers exactly, but there's like $7.2 trillion that we all think we have in banks, in stocks and bonds and all of our assets that we have in liquid funds, about 7.2 trillion, something like that. You know that there's less than $750 million in green dollar bills? So if all of us wanted our money tomorrow, there's no money. We just have computer blips in a computer screen that we think is wealth, and there is none. That's why every time there's talk about a downturn and they start talking about a run on banks, let me ask you something. All of a sudden you decide you want to go buy you a house tomorrow and you need $100,000 out of your IRA, and you go there and it says insufficient funds. And Satan controls your IRA because he controls the finances of the world. And all of a sudden you're not alone, but people all over the world don't have any money left because he decided that he wanted to play with your account. And you want anarchy in a heartbeat? Try that one on. So if you play with this idea and he's got control of the finances, it's ugly. And we know the chip, we talked about that last time. And they're doing it. It's voluntary, and in some cases, and in some cases they're doing it without parents' knowledge. There we go. Going back 40 plus years ago when I first got involved teaching prophecy and studying prophecy, it was interesting. Bud Hunter, when we went around and was putting on prophecy conferences here in South Florida, he had photographs of the taxis and the buses in Israel. And all of them on the front of the bus had a tag 666 on it. Now, I don't know if Israel was just doing that as a joke, or I don't never heard what the symbol of it was. But if it was a Israeli taxi or an Israeli bus, it had the tag on the front of it with a 666 on it. So this has been a popular thing for years, 666. Charles Manson had it on his forehead. I mean, you could, again, if you want to have fun, do a study 666 on the internet, a Google search, and then click on images and see what all you get. I mean, it blows you away how many people have put 666 on their body because they think it's neat.
Said it was a group in Miami. They all did that.
Yeah, a gang was doing it. Yeah, a gang was doing it. So this is a big deal. Now, the question is, what does it mean? I don't know. Take your pick. I've heard it applied to the barcode. I didn't know it was applied to Google. I knew it was applied to the Procter & Gamble logo. I found this picture. That one picture there right in the middle at the bottom is on some building at the Vatican.
That's the Mason.
It's the Mason signature, but it's on the building on the Vatican. I mean, you can get out there on the internet and it's all over out there. This is another, that's why I say don't get caught up in what the number means. It doesn't really matter. It says it's the number of a man. Okay? I mentioned last time we were together briefly, the number of a man is 6, the number of God is 7. Perfection. That's really about all you need to know. Doesn't really matter what it means, to be honest with you. So don't spend the rest of your tonight, don't lose sleep tonight over wondering what the 666 means. I guess is my point. All right? But just for your knowledge, the first historian to suggest a numerical value to men's names is Irenaeus in 130 to 200 AD. He was a historian in Israel, a Jewish historian. And he identified and applied numerical values to the Greek letters in the names of historical figures in his day. His suggestions were not associated with living persons at the time, but he came up with Titan, T-E-I-T-A-N, based on taking the Greek letters and applying numerical values to them. He came up with Titan and Latinos. Now stay with that term Latinos. Okay? Those were two names that he figured you could come up with 666 based on the Greek letters. That's where the whole idea of the Pope comes from. Is that, and this is the first century of the church. This is 100 years after Jesus went to glory, roughly 150 years, when he started playing with this idea. Okay? So that's where later people started taking the Hebrew language and doing the same thing with it. And so this isn't something that we just came up with in the 19th or 20th century. This is something that's gone on pretty much since, it says, what does it say there about knowing the number? Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beasts. So Christian theologians started playing with that idea, count the number of the beast right out front. And they've been doing it for thousands of years, playing with this idea. Okay? But going as far back as the first century, Irenaeus had played with the idea and started trying to give names to who the beast was, or might be. Many scholars over the years have gotten away from trying to identify a person. They've gotten more caught up in identifying a title that the person, the position, if you will, that the person will obtain. And here's some of the things. Latinos, which Irenaeus came up with, is a Latin-speaking man. Okay? An Italiano. The vicar of Rome, Vicarius Filii Dei, means the vicar of Rome. That comes up to 666 if you put all the numbers in correctly. Okay? Hey Latin Belisa, which means the Latin kingdom. Italica Ecclesia, Italian church. And apostates means the apostate church. And based on hundreds and hundreds of years of research of scholars coming up with these titles, that's given us the idea that the Roman Catholic Church is going to be the principal player here. And the 666 goes and identifies the Pope, whoever he might be. And I think then most of you probably read about Nostradamus and all of his predictions and all this kind of stuff. He was into this stuff.
You know the Bible too about the whore on 7 hills or 7 mountains.
That doesn't say Roman Catholic Church. We assume.
Google City was 7 mountains.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. There's other support text here, okay? But the reality is, this has been the thinking for hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of years after the Roman Church. When Irenaeus wrote about it, the Roman Church didn't exist. It wasn't until 325 that the Roman Church under Constantine came into existence. So when Irenaeus came up with Latinos, it didn't even exist. Okay? But since then, it's become prevalent knowledge that everybody pretty much knows that the Roman Catholic Church is going to be a primary player here. And that's why for years we thought it was going to be, the Pope was going to be the Antichrist. But I haven't seen anybody take the Greek or the Hebrew and try to come up with the 12th Imam. Maybe that's something you might want to do tonight. No, I'm just kidding you. Yeah, homework. Go home and see if you can come up with a 12th Imam word that in Greek or Hebrew, right? But again, this is one of those things, if you want to go on the internet and you want to Google some of this stuff, you can spend the next 6 months playing with it. And I don't recommend it. I did it till I was silly the other night, and I said, this is stupid. And I backed away from it. But I did come up with these terms. And there's a whole history through Roman Catholicism, word after word after word after word, that all come up with 666. And the Roman Catholic Church, a lot of the popes took on names that came up with 666. Now, why they would do that, I don't know. But it's there. So, I mean, I think the handwriting's on the wall somewhere. The Roman Catholic Church is going to be a major player here. And this 666 has some semblance to the Roman Catholic Church.
Daniel's interpretation of the dream too.
Totally. Revived Roman Empire is going to be the final empire, okay? So we can have all kinds of fun with that. It's been associated with numerous historical leaders and despots since John's writing in 95 AD. Titus, Nero, Diocletian, Vespasian, Simon Giras, Julian the Apostate, Genseric, Muhammad, Martin Luther, Benedict the Ninth, Louis the 15th, Napoleon the First, the Duke of Rhinestadt, and more. We're all supposed to be the Antichrist throughout history. And you notice it goes clear back to the beginning. Titus was 70 AD. So right after Christ, Titus was going to be the Antichrist. He's the one that came in and destroyed Israel. And all the Jews knew he was Antichrist. The saved Jews. Of course, it didn't happen. So this has been going on since Jesus got back and sat down in glory. These are 20th century Antichrists that we all thought people were predicting as Antichrist, starting with Teddy Roosevelt, Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, John Kennedy, Charlie Boy, and Reagan himself. They were all going to be Antichrists. To somebody, they were Antichrist. Okay? That's why I say don't spend a lot of time trying to decide who it is. Because we've been playing that game for a long time. Okay? This is now. These are still popular ones. Henry Kissinger's still in the running until he dies. Of course, those of us that come out of the 60s and 70s, he was the one that did the Vietnamese peace pact with the Chinese and sold us out in Vietnam. Gorbachev is still in the running, and obviously he's resigned now, but the old Pope was going to be him. And now the new Pope certainly is in the running. And of course, Obama's certainly, he's way up there. He's probably number one suspect right now. And Putin's about to take over from Obama. They're right up there running close, one or two. Is going to be the Antichrist. Do I care? No. Should you care? Probably not. Again, I don't think it matters a lot. When it comes to power, if we're still here, we'll know it. I'm hoping we're gone. Remember chicken theory, right? There's our president. Brock, 6 letters. Obama, 6 letters. And Junior, 6 letters. That's got to prove it, right?
Except Obama's only 5.
5. Yes, I count. That's how I was counting.
Good point.
Brock is 6.
Probably in the Greek at 6.
It's an H at the end.
What's that?
Obama.
Obama. Obama. Whatever. Okay. Anyhow,
Bobby.
moving right along. This is another guy that he's Islamic. He's the one that they're trying to catch, and he's one of the major radicals over in I don't even know where he is now. I guess he's in Iran. Okay, but he's making the 6 symbol, and they made it on his hat and mouth, and I mean they got him all fixed up there to justify that he's the Antichrist. And then if you don't like that one, of course he's retired now, so I guess he's a retired Antichrist. But for those of you that might have hated Bush, there were those that knew he was the Antichrist. So I hope I made my point. Don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out who the Antichrist is. It doesn't really matter. When he comes to power, hopefully we're out of here. Just before that.
When he signs a peace pact, doesn't matter the number.
Doesn't matter the number. Stop going to doctors. Don't take any chips. You might want to get rid of your credit cards at that point. But, you know, I've said for years I'm not going to store up gold at that point. I'm going to store up potato spuds so I can grow potatoes. I can at least eat potatoes. I can't eat gold, okay? But anyhow, that's all I got tonight. Thank y'all for coming out.